Hello, good evening, and welcome to the program. This is Daily Politics on Trust TV. I'm Abdullahi Ahmed. Tonight, we turn our focus to one of the most consequential fiscal policy moves in Nigeria's recent history, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's tax reform initiative. On Thursday, the Senate passed two of the four proposed tax reform bills, the Nigeria Tax Bill of 2024 and the Joint Revenue Board Establishment Bill. The bills were debated at the Committee on the Whole and secured majority support through a voice vote, as announced by the Senate President. Since their introduction back in October last year, these tax reform bills have sparked nationwide debate, with reactions ranging from cautious optimism to outright rejection. But what has really changed? Do the reforms reflect the hopes and hardship of ordinary Nigerians, or are they simply another layer of government control over revenue? To help us unpack and navigate the implications, we're joined tonight by Policy and Public Affairs Analyst Dr. Suleiman Abdullahi joining us for the conversation. Doctor, good evening and welcome to the program.
Evening.
Good to see you again.
It's a pleasure being with you.
Right. All right. To set the ball in motion, let's have a look at this report put together by Trust TV's Kende Amodu on the Nigerian Senate passage of the remaining two reform bills.
These newly passed bills collectively seek to repeal outdated tax laws and consolidate the legal frameworks relating to taxation. The bills establish new tax authorities, including a joint revenue board, a tax appeal tribunal, and the Office of the Tax Ombudsman, and are expected to improve tax assessment, collection and accountability across federal, states and local governments. President of the Senate, Gov't, commended the lawmakers for their contributions and urged further observations for refinement.
Consolidate the legal framework relating to taxation and enact the Nigeria Tax Bill to provide for taxation of income, transactions and instruments, and for related matters 2025, third reading taken. Distinguished colleagues, a bill for an act to repeal certain acts on taxation and consolidate the legal frameworks relating to taxation and enact the Nigeria Tax Bill to provide for taxation of income, transactions and instruments, and for related matters 2025, third reading taken and passed.
The Senate Committee on Finance, chaired by Senator Sani Musa, presented reports on the bills after extensive consultations and clause-by-clause considerations to address controversies, including contentious issues around the value-added tax, VAT. The Senate rejected the proposal to increase VAT to 10%, retaining it at 7.5%. A committee led by Senator Yahaya Abdullahi was set up to harmonize the bills with existing laws. Meanwhile, a Senate President Gov't has taken a swipe at Labour Party's 2023 presidential candidate Peter Obi over recent remarks suggesting that the labors of our heroes past is all in vain. Speaking at a valedictory session in honor of the late Edwin Clark, Akpabio raised concerns about the divisive nature of social media, calling it an unregulated space that can spread misinformation and deepen political tensions. The Senate President urged all political figures, including Obi, to focus on unifying their parties before setting their sights on national office.
Some of them in the social media were not even born when Edwin Clark was very active in service. And so they couldn't have known some of the things he did that we are remembering today. And yet, when somebody makes a statement that the labors of our heroes past are in vain, I beg to disagree. Let our brother Peter Obi show leadership like Edwin Clark did by resolving first the crisis in the Labour Party.
The valedictory session was organized in recognition of Clark's service as a senator during Nigeria's Second Republic. Senators paid glowing tributes, describing him as a tireless advocate for justice, a champion for the marginalized, and a national figure whose legacy continues to inspire generations.
course, the report ending on that valedictory note for Sir Pa Edwin Clark, who was, of course, honored by the Nigerian Senate. But, of course, the key theme in that report was the passage of the two outstanding bills that culminated in the tax reform agenda of the Tinubu administration. Much of what's left now is just a formality of the president to sign the bills into law, which will definitely come in handy in terms of the transformation of Nigeria's tax administration, one that many have agreed is long overdue. However, the contents of those bills have been the subject of much discussion from October last year to this particular point. So let's bring in our guest once again. Dr. Suleiman Abdullahi is joining us here in the studio for tonight's conversation. Doctor, good evening to you once again. It's very clear that the heat has died down. Last year, around October to late December or even January this year, much of the conversation has been the disagreements about what these reform bills are going to achieve. You hear regional groups, mostly from the north, speak out against some of the provisions about the redistribution of the collection from the value-added tax and so on and so forth. Where are we going to keep VAT? The increase there, the governors have had their say and so on and so forth. What do you make of what is looking like a political compromise at what the outcome of this legislation is going to be?
I think it's better we start by telling the people what we mean by tax reform. Tax reform is a system whereby all the structures of your tax institution should be restructured. The tax system should have a new face. Then to we here in Nigeria, what matters to us is the content of that tax reform bill. And if you want to see it, I would have loved to look at what are the prerequisites of tax reform in any nation. And if you look at the developed world today that have practiced tax reform, what do they actually get out of it? So this is the issue. Looking at the political point of view, we have come much forward, backward, left and right, coming at the point, you understand now, the political elites have won it once again against the masses. Because if you look at it, the germs of the whole problem goes back to the population. The population are what? Are the less privileged, the downtrodden, those that receive and lesser, that need the services of the state, need the sympathy of the government. But you are going back to tax them. There are two things that make the citizen comfortable within their domain. One is subsidy, fuel subsidy, health subsidy, even food subsidy. I still tell you, in America government subsidizes wheat because their main central food is what? It goes around wheat. The flour, everything you see, most of the beverages are gotten from what? From wheat. After serious fermentation and cooking and recooking. You understand now? They get the final refined product of it as what? As wine or drinks. So the government heavily subsidized what? Wheat. Obama administration was centered on what? Health reform bill. Because they look at the population. And look, we have to look at social package for what? For the citizen. And most area that need to be touched is what? Is the health. So Obama came with the health reform bill. So you look at it, they have politicized the whole system. So now, what is left for the common man in Nigeria? We have insecurity, no subsidy. Now you are bringing structures, reform structure in what? In taxes. We have 4 types of taxes. We have the Company Inline Act Reform Tax, we have the Value-Added Tax, we have the Personal Income Tax, and we have the Petroleum Industry Tax Act. So if you look at these ones, even though they are not touching the added value tax from as proposed by the federal government from 7.5 to 10%, let me tell you, all other taxes you have increased will have nosedive back to what? To the masses. Looking at the banking industries, the petty traders goes to bank, deal with all palm pay with all this microfinance bank. You increase this taxation there, and they go back there, they get money. Each transaction, like what the SMS alert you get by sending money, is now 6 naira. Can you imagine millions of people paying that? You have to pay about 50 to 60 naira per 1,000 if you clock after 100,000 naira. Look, but let me be sincere with you. The government is not yet ready to put the right peg into the right hole.
Given the gaps infrastructurally in education, road networks, welfare and well-being of the people, whether it's through palliatives or remunerations because of increased wages and things like that, it's safe to say that the administration or any other government that is going to come in the near future is going to require a lot of resources. Isn't this going to be the government trying to explore and expand its tax nets? And that's why some of these 2 naira increase in SMS messages, for instance, increase in data, for instance, from the telecommunications sector that has also witnessed a 50% tariff hike. Aren't all of these necessary for growth and development?
What growth and development? What matters to every citizen is the end result. Well, look, how do we improve our standard of living? How have it improved? Have it improved what? Has it improved the standard of living, the health sector, the economic sector? All we are looking at, look, the government is trying to make more money. And this money
more money to service the people.
To service the people. The more money to service the people, then now you are said to serve the people. In the last 2 years, you remove subsidy. How have you served the people? What is the benefit in it? Because now you look at, even after promising they are going to open the border with some, they open the border, bring influx of, food items. Still yet, a mood of beans in Abuja, this evening I bought at the cost of 2,200 from local market here. At the cost of a mood of rice costs about 2,500 naira. Just a mood. 10 mood, I have to pay 25,000 naira. So look, it is this local rice, not the foreign rice package ones. Then now, let me tell you, have you tried any of the government health institutions? Within 1 hour, consultancy services is nothing less than 1,000 to 2,500. That's just consultation and buying of a card. It's pay as you move. Every point of services in these hospitals, you pay. And you pay for it seriously. And most of the gadgets are not working. The X-ray machine, all the the instruments there are outdated. They don't have medical engineers to take proper care of these machines. And let me tell you, with all these reforms, Nigerians are still japping outside. Moving what? From our sensitive industry from Nigeria, they are moving to other countries. Even nearby Ghana, Ghana here. The other time, I had Ghanaians complain about the influx of Nigeria into Ghana. What reform are we talking about? Is it reform? Look, we have government that, I have said it ever before now, we are good in cut and paste policies. If you are talking of reform, we started to hear about reform since the beginning of this Fourth Republic, coming with the introduction of Ngozi Uwela as the Minister of what? Coordinating Minister of Finance. Look, she brought about reforms, reform institutions. They brought about the local content. What are we saying? After local content, they create the standard organization of Nigeria. You understand now? To look at what? The standard of local content. You are talking of localizing what? The production of what we consume here in Nigeria. How many companies do you have? Let's go. How many SME are reaching with SMEDA? How many local companies are reaching with NIDA? Let's go back to, we have a NIPRI in Idu. That is a National Institute for Pharmaceutical Research and Development. What have they developed in the last 10, 15 years? We have Dasani. And when you look at this tax reform, they have increased the look. We have to accrue revenue to these institutions. NIDA, Naseni, the institutional loans found, you understand now, the cyber security is, look, when I look at all these institutions, what do they mean to ordinary man in the streets?
Okay, let's talk about that for a moment, and let's just take a quick look at this infographic displaying the key components of these four major tax reform bills. Well, you talk about what's in it for the average Nigerian, right? One of it is full exemption for workers earning up to 1.3 million naira per annum, over 100,000 naira per month, if that's what they're earning, representing not less than 35% of the workforce in both private and public sector. Reduce payee, which is a personal income tax for a lot of people, pay as you earn, for workers earning up to 20 million naira per annum, which is about 1.7 million naira. So people who are earning much higher, benefiting additional 60% of all workers. And full payee tax exemption for members of the armed forces. On this, the low-hanging fruits that we can say, if you're targeting something for the average Nigerian, this is something that directly impacts average Nigerians.
Let me tell you, it's just system. I will tell you, it's robbing Paul to pay Peter. If we are paying tax through our transactions, services, an average Nigeria, you must pay for transportation, you must pay through the banking sector, you understand now? You must take loan through your offices and pay back. And this goes back to what? To the banking sector.
Isn't it fair to say, Doctor, that life is not free? That at some point, Nigerians have to pay for something. I mean, if the government is saying there's going to be zero VAT on food, zero VAT on healthcare, zero VAT on education, and that is representing 60% of all consumption. Isn't that something?
Let me tell you, zero VAT on food. Where is the food? Where is the food? The major producer of food in this country is from the north. The north is in a mass insecurity crisis. The youths from north are what? Are moving in masses from north down to Abuja here and other urban city to look for what? To be Okada riders. They service your fingernails. They cut fingernails. But shoemakers, they are into trade that they are not specialized on it. It's not adding value to their life. And it's not adding value what? To the economic income, general GDP of the nation. They just get this money, eat, and send back home to their families. And they run from home to here. You understand now? They have been cut off from what? From their agricultural activities, livestock practices in their villages and in their state. The state can no longer bear the burden of insecurity. They are crying to the federal government. Look at what has happened in Benue State, in Plateau, in Zamfara State, in Katsina. These axes produce much food for this country. Benue State is a basket food of the nation. Then now, look at the crisis. In Plateau, you have all those food that are very nutritious to the body. Carrot, gabi, all those fruits, what they call it. Even apple grows in Plateau State. You have grapes, strawberries. So these are supposed to be what? Cash fruits, that a product that you even export outside Nigeria or within Africa. So now with this what? Insecurity crisis in this state, how do you do it? Benue State is one of the largest states that gives you the largest producer of what? Of yam in Nigeria. Now, and we have started exporting yam. Now with this insecurity in North Central, back to Plateau, Kogi, Benue, and Niger, you have large production of what? Of cassava. In cassava, you have what we call ethanol. And it's more expensive than petroleum products. Now, with this insecurity, how do you manage it? People are running from their state, from their village to the urban centers. Now, you are saying you are reducing tax and to the public service. Now, food, where is the food coming from? The public service are only 35%, understand now, of what? Of the consumers, nationwide. And look at it, whatever you go that goes into the, out of your budget, what goes to the civil servant? Less than 25%. And if you look at it, your capital expenditure at the end of the year, after looking at your budget, you understand now, is not worthwhile.
Are you saying?
And let's look at it within the last 2 years. I'm not judging this government by now. You understand now? What have they achieved physically that can show? Like looking at what monetary policy, economic policy, fiscal policy, the micro system, policy we have made down from the local government to the state government to the federal government. This is how it has impacted what on an average Nigeria. Please, can you tell me?
Yeah, but
ask each of the ministry. You understand now? What reform have you brought that? Look, we have had enough money.
Was observed
we have reduced
in
our.
his honor.
I listened to Tupe Faswa. Tupe Faswa saying
these newly
paid principal money about $3.something billion. You understand now?
The IMF loans.
IMF loans. You understand now? Then if you have paid your capital, how does it translate into what? Increasing the value of your naira.
Well, I mean, okay.
You understand now?
So
now, what about your unemployment?
Yeah, but Doctor,
in Nigeria, unemployment continues to increase.
Yeah, but Doctor, to be fair, right, and to be objective, there are myriads of challenges. Isn't this a part of a solution in terms of tax administration? I mean, you can always say, what about this, what about that, what about this?
You cannot place the horse before the cart. Let me tell you, I said
I think that's how you actually do it. You place the horse before you place the cart.
Because this is why we are not being respected in the Committee of Nations. You see, the prerequisite before any tax reform, let me tell you, in 1947, 46, 47, after the Second World War, Japan introduced the tax reform. It collapses all their economic system. They have to come back and even change their currency. It happened in Taiwan. After the Taiwan and China's war, you understand now, they came back again with what they said, tax reform. They have to come back to the grassroots. With the same thing happened with China. So let me tell you, when you are talking, the prerequisite of any tax reform is first and foremost, you understand now, look at your local content. Encourage and establish what? Small and medium enterprises. Generate individuals, human capacity, develop them that are specialists, you understand now, in local content production. Are we producing locally paracetamol, multivitamin? What are those consumables items that are being produced in Nigeria that are consumed by what? By our health sector.
I suppose then it's exciting. Was it exciting for you to hear about the Nigeria First policy that the administration launched this week?
Oh my God.
Looking inwards?
You are still talking about policy. I told you since 1999 we have Konjo Uwela, Nanadi Usman, they have come with a lot of policy. All those policies are what we are refurbishing. All those people are paperwork that look, we will turn around and bring them. What are the practical aspects of it? If you said you are a medical student, after all theories, you understand now, we'll look at hypothesis, we look at theory, then you go to lab and we look at practical. After that, we go for internship. After that internship, we put you to hospital and look at what our practice over the year. Oh, this is now close to 25 years of this democracy. We are still talking about policy. Please, we ask, after 9 months of gestation and the pregnant woman found it difficult to give birth to a male or female, can we start celebrating?
Doctor, do you have what appears to be, or what many would say is an optimistic view? Because you seem to be rubbishing every idea that...
Look, let me tell you, let me be sincere with you. This government, since it's from its conception, you understand now, has been talking about policy. And what I understand, and look, they run to the IMF, these multinational global institutions, they tell them you are doing well, today you are not doing fine, your GDP have increased, you do this, you understand now. Look, after removal of subsidy, what do you get out of it? Zero. You give palliative. Palliative is not a means of what? of touching the life of your citizens. It's not productive, it's not positive, and it's not progressive. You understand now? It is only when you are in war, you are recovering from war, you have palliatives. You understand now? And you get global attention that will help you with palliative measures. We are not in this crisis for now. And let me tell you, and let us be sincere to ourselves.
You're saying the reforms are not necessary?
The reforms is not what we want. We want practical, what we put 3 square meal on your table. You understand now? Go to our hospitals.
Even though they're outdated, most of them have been around for the current laws that we have right now with regards to our tax administration is more than 30 years old, more than 40 years old, actually.
Let me tell you, the funny thing, go to National Assembly, both the Green Chamber and the Red Chamber. All our rep members and the senators there are using foreign brocades, textiles. 2 years. What are your policies on bringing back the northern textile industries? We have Jeba sugarcane mill. Where is it? Jeba paper mill. Where is it? We have the Savannah sugar. You understand now? All this. We have the Volkswagen pan. Where are all those things in Kaduna? Multinational companies that are operating in Nigeria over years are now folding and run away from Nigeria. Where is Michelin Tire Services, Nigeria Tire Services? You see, let me tell you, is FIDA still operating in Nigeria? There is this very good antibiotic that is generally used in most of our hospitals. You know, penicillin, I think penicillin costs about, augmentin costs about 60 to 75,000 naira for you to get a very good one. Because those producing in this country have moved their packages from this country. Unemployment is increasing all the day. Where electricity? All this sector, all this reform you are talking is not on taxation. Go back, have a serious and robust reform structure on what? On your health sector, on your educational sector, on what? On your energy sector. You should have more power supply. He said in his first, when Mr. President said, look, after 4 years, if you don't have stable electricity, don't vote me. This is 2 years, and we are talking about re-election. Mr. President, you have started hearing the drum. It's started beating the drum of what? Of the election of Mr. President. Now, is this what we are talking? What happened to our what? Our power sector. Before, after the subsidy, what we gain up till now, look, the pump price of premium spirit is still within 930 naira to 915 naira. What are we saying? How much are we getting it?
Is it fair, Doctor, to have a circumspective view on what the challenges were before the administration came on board? What it promised it was going to do? The tax reforms is definitely one of those issues that the president wanted to address, because we see what has happened in Lagos, for instance. They arguably have one of the best tax systems in the country, and you consider that there are quite a lot of loopholes that need to be addressed in terms of government operations and things like that. On the face value of these ideas and these tax reforms, are they worthwhile?
Let me tell you, if you are talking of looking at loopholes where, individuals and those in the helm of affairs, as far as our financial institutions are concerned and revenue generation institutions are concerned, that take court, you understand now? I agree with you, we should have reform. But all those things bounce back to corruption. Corruption.
So what should the government do? Fold its hands and address the issues one at a time?
We have weak institutions. How do you strengthen your institutions? Is it part of the how you strengthen your institutions? No.
It is talking about a joint revenue board.
Revenue board
that will streamline collection, because we also know that as part of the issues that small businesses have in this country is this
multiple
taxations that duplicate themselves at local, state and federal level, right? This is surely something that you will agree that it's a right step in the right direction, right? An ombudsman.
You look at it. If you streamline it, then now we'll look at the sharing formula. Will the state not still collect tax within the state level? You understand now? Is it at the federal level you are saying, look, we are not going to collect tax? And the local government chairman is telling you, look, You have to give receipt to ordinary petty trader that all her capital is more than 5,000 naira. Then tell me, who is following the order? Look, if you want a reform should start within the government cycle. Cut government expenses. All these senators that are, bamboozling common citizens, you understand now, with all fake and frivolous losses, they cannot justify within the content of Nigeria. You understand now? She reduced their income. She reduced their take-home pay. And let's downsize what? Government expenditure. And look at it. I had this guy, Erufai Jr., saying, look, we have to cut our expenditures within the state and the federal government. And look, every year you come with a budget that you want to buy car. Is car an expired product? You understand now? So you look at it, I want a situation whereby not just even looking at policies and the government the way we are moving. You understand now? I want you, my dear brother, let's look at the 25 years of what? Of democracy in Nigeria. What have we actually get out of it? And let's look at the 30 years of the military rule. You understand now? How have they impacted on the people and even democratic system itself? And what is the gap between? And we'll look at the nexus between those two institutions. And let me tell you, if we are looking at this administration practically, look, I am one of those that stand tooth and campaign for, Mr. President. You understand now? Looking at his performance as Lagos State, governor there. Let me tell you, all the tax reform you said are in Lagos State. We are not just there. It's because we have institutions that are big-time institutions in Lagos. Most company that are public liability companies, even limited companies, have their headquarters in Lagos. That is number one. Number two, let you understand, Lagos is the first federal headquarters of this country. Number three, the seaport in Lagos tells you that, look, a lot of things come through what? The seaport. And not only the federal government that gets money there, the state government and the local government. So if we should look at all these indices, these are the indices that give room for what? For the tax reform in Lagos.
So when the chairman of the tax reform committee says clearly that the president's message is simple, the administration is not trying to tax poverty, it is trying to tax progress, that there is a lot of room, there's a lot of incentives, especially for the private sector, to hire more people, for businesses to have waivers if they are not able to break even within a certain bracket, that they don't have to pay certain taxes. Aren't these all stimulus that would spark economic development?
Where is the progress in the last 2 years? A mood of beans have jumped from what? From maybe 500 or 200 or 300 naira to 2,000 naira. A mood of rice here in Abuja that will cost you 500 naira have jumped to 2,500. Look at the relation. Look at the inflation.
Isn't this a transition period?
What transition period are we talking about? Are you coming back to that period after getting all this data? You see, we come back. What have goes up in Nigeria that comes down? What are we saying? Our population is increasing. The crime rate is increasing. We have weak institutions that we need to build. We have insecurity here and there. So now tell me, what are we looking at policy, or we are looking at what? Issues that are more practical to the people. I told you, number one, the power sector. You must have, any developed country, the first thing they established was power. You must have constant power, 24 hours, so that this young, talented Nigeria can take advantage of that within their comfort zone. They don't need government job. They just can fabricate what they have, what they can do. Understand now? Just give them simple machine. They will know how to craft things and send it to the market within the local content, within African, the content of what? ECOWAS and AU. And they get their money, even in hard currency, in dollars, in pound sterling. Look, if this is not what we are doing, we are not getting it right. That is number one. Let's look at it. When last did you travel with public transport from within a distance of 500 kilometers. It's a hell of a mess. And the roads are so bad that after undergoing a journey of more than 200 or 300 kilometers, I'm assuring you, if you are not strong enough, you need to just visit your doctor. Because the environmental pollution, the potholes, the damage of the road, and the driver and the vehicle that are on the road, what's the situation? All this is what goes back to what? To bad government policy, and we don't have the needed infrastructure on ground.
So,
look,
Doctor,
movement of what? Yeah. Movement of goods and property from the local producers, the market movement from the farm product, you understand now, to the urban city.
Doctor, I get the point that you're trying to connect all of these dots, right? But, away from just zooming out, I'm trying to zoom in on the viability of the tax reform bills, right? On the evidence that we have about some of these ideas and the uproar that they caused last year, and how we've gotten to this point where the temperature is low now and there seems to be agreement between the governors, legislators, the presidency, and other stakeholders involved. Isn't this a step in the right direction, all things considered?
Let me give you a simple analysis. There must be a marriage ceremony before the signing of what? Marriage certificate. Where is the ceremony for Nigeria? Insecurity is a ceremony before tax reform? Our health sector has been ravaged.
You're saying this can wait?
Look, let me tell you, if we are not getting it right, we are not getting it right. It's just paperwork. And you come back to say, look, I have said it here. And to all our viewers, I'm assuring you, they will come back and say, look, what I said is true. Look,
even the part where the legislators have decided to peg the value-added tax at 7.5%.
Value-added tax at 7.5%. Let's increase to 10%. Let them increase it. You understand? And let's see what will happen within the next 3 to 7 days. You understand now? Look, you have choked the ordinary Nigerian. They are surviving within the content of our local tradition, means of living before civilization. Most Nigerians depend on what? On nature. They don't attend normal hospitals. That is why it is on what scenario cancer issues, you understand now, you see majorly in the hospital. People reserve go back to herbs. They don't know their connection, their link, even in the city here. So let me tell you, we are damaging what? Our system within the cycle of health, individually as a country. And we have no respect for our citizenships. And the citizens have lost confidence in the government. And let me tell you, all this we have been hearing policy paper. Look, let me tell you, finally, on this issue, and every average Nigerian is as intelligent as the other. As you are preparing your power document, your policy document, we have here, there are people that are looking at it from the other perspective, constructively. You understand now? Look, good English, good paper presentation. We have a lot of good research reports, research works in our institution. What have they transformed into?
So you're saying that this is an exercise in futility, and even if the administration is able to implement it, it is not going to change anything. Is that what you're saying?
Fantastic. Good. This is clearly what I'm saying. It is one of those policies, as we have before, that look, it had not resulted into giving us any good positive result. You understand now? Look, it's just with time. Let's say the government is working. We have this policy and that policy. You understand now? Let me tell you. Looking at monetary policy, before the coming of this government, naira to dollar is about 500 naira. Today is 1,500. What policy are you doing? And all these things goes back, have a serious ripple effect on the local market. Understand now? Look at our aviation sector. Do you see what is happening to our aviation sector? Look, my brother, I am praying, I so much believe in Mr. President before his swearing-in ceremony. I engage seriously with people to discuss, but not for everything. You understand now? But let me honestly, with this government, I have one of those that really supported the issue of subsidy removal, thinking the money will be channeled towards a good direction. But by now, every month you spend more than close to 100 billions of naira or 500 billions of naira in oil subsidy. Those subsidies, you understand now, what happened to them that you are not paying? Then let's look at it. Within this content, you look at the confrontation between Gov't refinery and Nigeria NNPL. You understand now? Look at it. And look at the, petroleum marketers. These are three bodies that have serious issues. You understand now? Up till now, we are saying
serious issues. I mean, Gov't was at the NNPCL headquarters earlier in the day, and he says, listen, let's usher in the era of cooperation. Gov't refinery is not in competition with NNPCL, and it does appear, at least on face value, that they're all speaking from the same perspective. Energy security, affordable energy for Nigeria.
Let's look forward for areas of cooperation. That shows there are areas that are not cooperating before. There are crises, there are issues.
Which is natural, isn't it?
You understand now?
Which is natural. There's nothing unnatural about
do you know one
disagreements?
Thing? When two elephants fight, it is the grass that suffers. Okay. Because if Gov't is having serious issue with NNPL, you understand now? That is to tell you that, look, Nigeria are really paying for it. Because in the first instance, NNPC should stand for Nigeria. Gov't, as an multi-global institution that is after his business, you understand now, should have some rules and regulations that are being guided by whom? From the NNPC. That, look, because it should have a human face, because we are talking of the population of Nigerians. Because it's the first private refinery we have in Nigeria. You understand?
I mean, of its size.
Of its size.
We have other refineries.
Yeah. Of its size in Nigeria, even in Africa. If you look at it, if we are talking of what? Human-based policy, government policies that have to look at what? Our future, the past, the present, and the future. I'm telling you, more is needed to be done.
Okay. Doctor, just to take you up on something that you just said just moments ago about being a proponent for subsidy removal. A lot of Nigerians before the Tinubu administration came have thrown their weight of support behind subsidy removal, right? The administration has decided to walk the talk, do what everybody says is clearly the more sustainable approach towards governance, right? Towards sustainability. Now that it's hitting us in the face, this reality check is clearly hitting us in the face. Now people are trying to blame the administration for taking the decision that has gained popularity with all of the candidates, to be honest, who were in contest with the president in 2023. Atiku Abubakar has talked about subsidy removal and unbundling the oil and gas sector for such a very long time. The likes of Peter Obi of the Labour Party has also talked about how the subsidy needs to go. I mean, there are variations about how to go about it, but in principle, they're all in agreement that this is the right step forward. So isn't this the consequence of the red pill that we've decided to take as a nation?
You see, that would have been the #1 achievement of Mr. Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And that would have been the first consensus he have gotten from Nigerians as followership from his citizens. You understand now? Do you know what happened? It was badly managed. The management of success is the beginning of failure. If you find it difficult to manage a success, you understand now, then that shows you are going to fail woefully. Look, if you tell me I don't have a plan, I will tell you I decided not to plan so that you cannot know my plan. But when you said I have plan and I show you my plan, you understand now, and at the end I failed, that shows the plan have succeeded, I failed to manage the success of the plan. What are we saying here? Look, Mr. President, after removing subsidy, you understand now, you increase the monthly allocation to state and local government and the local government autonomy, still working on it. And let's look at it all together. What ripple effect has he on the state, ordinary man on the state? You are talking of tax reform. Why don't we reform our auditing structure that the Auditor General of the Federation should have a collaboration of the state to have audited account? I said it, look, at the end of every month, let every state tell us what you have collected last month, how you have spent it. Yeah, we should have a clear expenditure.
But we have that already. I mean, the FAC allocation is published monthly.
It's published. We know what the state collects, receive at the end of every month. But how have they expended this money? I don't know.
I mean, each state has its own budget, don't they? They have their own budget.
They have their budget.
Yeah.
What you collect annually, what you collect monthly, how do you spend it? The state government should give account. You have not more than 13% of the population of the state that are a civil servant. State up till now that cannot execute a single project. Tell me within 36 states of the federation, which among the states that have constructed the modern pipe-borne water with the latest facilities within the whole 36 states? Look. All you have seen, we have what we call it federal medical centers. What are the reform structures in our federal medical center across the country? In each of the states.
I mean, if we're going
we used to have central hospital as state, what do you call it? Teaching hospitals. You understand now? Where are they? The famous Ibadan teaching hospital was not owned by the federal government. It was owned by the state government.
Yeah, but if we're going to, like I said, zoom out and talk about all of these other problems, I mean, we can spend the next 3 hours and it will not be exhaustive enough. But the point is, to focus on the argument that has been made for this tax reforms, that the administration thinks is going to pivot Nigeria's economy. I'm saying, you look at VAT redistribution, for instance, which has become a big issue, with some of the governors saying, listen, Lagos rivers are going to be the biggest earners, or specifically Lagos, for instance, because in the threshold or the categorization of distribution in terms of population, in terms of generation, and the redistribution formula itself, it is going to get more. I mean, arguably because it also contributes more, but because of the other indices involved. Where do you stand with what has been reworked? The Governors Forum or the Nigerian Governors Forum completely gave its own position on what it wants, and I think they've signed an agreement or something like that to say with the federal government, but also the National Assembly's position, because next there's going to be this conference committee that is going to harmonize what the House of Reps and the Nigerian Senate has agreed to as part of this new legislation. Do you think that the current position as far as redistribution of VAT is concerned is something that works for you?
You are looking at population and the revenue generation. I will look at the population that consume. You move Kula North from the southwest to the north for consumption, and that is where the revenue is coming. But these are the people generating it. Who now get the chunk of the revenue? The generator or the consumers? But without the consumers, your product will not be in the market. You understand now? So now, if you look at it all, what I am saying here, distribution and redistribution is not matters. What matters? From federal inland revenue to Nigerian Revenue Services, the joint tax board bill, you understand now, the tax bill, the Nigerian administrative tax bill, this is not what matters to Nigeria. If I go to bed conveniently, without any security threats, I have my social facilities on standby for me. Believe me honestly, if you take 30% of my salary, I won't complain to you. My children go to one of the best hospitals with the best facilities in Africa and the world. You understand now? I'll be happy to be there. It's just like tourism for me. You understand now? I go on my leisure, I go to see my doctor, we have a chat, and he look at me, my health and everything. I pay my bill. I have standard by water supply. I pay my water bill. You understand now? Then we'll look at this educational sector. Do I need a loan for my child to start work to pay? The current leaders we have, do their parents get loan for them to go to education, to get their educations? Did Awolowo of great blessed memory get loan for them? He established educational systems that are free for the downtrodden within his community, within the state, within his region. Sardauna of blessed memory that have produced leaders and great leaders of this country. Do these people pay for their academic education? They got free education. They were well, fed in high institution. They were given cash after their graduation. They got automatic jobs. What are we saying?
In the final analysis, Doctor,
in the final
because we have to go, you do agree that some of the provisions of the reform bills is good or are good enough to make a difference. However, you have qualms about everything else that's going on with insecurity and everything. But is this going to be something that you look out for in terms of changing the economic trajectory of this country? Because the administration, like you said, has reached its halfway mark already. In a couple of weeks, the second anniversary will be commemorated, right? But do we expect some of the gains to begin to show up if this is properly implemented?
Most of our youth are addicted to Bet Naija. The tariff results, they don't have anything to do with Bet Naija. Most of our children are looking in the music entertainment industry. Does this have to do with entertainment industry?
I mean,
everybody want to be a Rara in the north. They want to be a Pasua in the east. They want to be this and that. You understand now? And let me tell you, if all this youth, this talent at this level, they are running from the reality of life, our educational system, JAM just said, we have the worst result as far as JAM is concerned this year. Look, my brother, something is wrong. We need to address issues fundamentally. The prerequisite of tax reform is that, look, let's look at those agencies that need to generate human capacity, human development. You understand now? Let's look at our SME agencies that need to bring a lot of SME should be there. The microfinance banks should be up and doing. They should have direct link with what? With the grassroots.
Right.
You understand now? This is what we are saying. After establish this local content of what? Of capital development within the local context of Nigeria. You understand now? Then everybody, we don't need the federal government. We don't need anything that have to do with the government. You understand now?
Okay.
But me and you, we develop our water, our security, our health services, we pay for it. Look, what is the importance of the pension tax reform? People are still crying, are still dying, not getting their benefit.
Okay.
And now I'm talking of tax reform.
Okay. Sometimes some of these competing demands cannot wait for one another. But we're going to have to leave it here for now, Dr. Suleiman Abdullahi. Thank you so much for the analysis. Appreciate you for stopping by tonight.
Thank you very
so much for your time. All right. And that is, of course, our show for you tonight. Thank you most kindly for joining us. Daily Politics returns on Monday, live and exclusive on Trust TV. Until next time, I'm Abdullahi Ahmed. Good evening.